Hi everyone. After my last video about, the first video I should say, about the sewing machine and the do's and the don'ts of the sewing machine, I wanted to chat with you a little bit about Presserfeet. There's all kinds of Presserfeet out there for sewing machines. Granted, most people don't need this many. I used to teach specialty sewing classes for dealerships, and therefore I have, believe it or not, pretty much everything possible for my machine. Your machine usually comes with a dozen or so feet, maybe not that many. But what we're concerned with is the shape of the feet and what they're going to do for us. You don't need every foot out there. You really don't. There are specialty feet that make life a lot easier when you're sewing, and there are feet that you should know about so that when you use your machine and the stitches on your machine, you get a proper stitch. All the machines we talked about in the first video have a different way to attach your feet. A lot of them are little, I had one here just a minute ago. Just give me a sec. They attach with a piece that looks like that, and they screw on to the machine right here. This happens to be a low shank machine, and I have an adapter for my machine to use that. The thing I will tell you is that if you don't know your machine, it is best to talk to your dealer. I have always said it's not so much about the machine, it's about the dealer you get it from. And unfortunately, when you get it out of the box at the box store, you don't have that help. So hopefully these things that I'm telling you will help a little bit. The thing we're concerned about is just this little bottom piece. Some of the machines have an adapter that this actually just clips on the bottom. Okay, and not all the machines have metal feet. Some of them are plastic down here. It's all about which machine you have. What we care about is the shape of the foot and the bottom surface of the foot. Okay? That's the things that we're going to talk about, and that's what matters, and that's the things that you need to look at in your little box of feet. Okay? Because I have specialty feet. This one's just a roll of hem. Just a tiny little rolled hem. So these are, oops, I'm sorry guys, just a second. Okay. These are the things that you want to look for in your box of feet. That foot and this foot are the most common feet. Oops, fell over. Come on now. Okay, sorry guys. I am sorry when it goes out of focus like that. Okay. This is my everyday sewing straightforward foot. Okay. So many machines now have stitches that come forward, go backwards, come forward, go backwards. They are decorative stitches. They are stretch stitches. Many things like that. The thing that you have to look for, let's turn them over this way. There we go. Is the bottom of this foot. Okay? Let's see if I can show you better. There we go. Alright, on this foot, which is an everyday foot for sewing straightforward, the front piece is solid, and then there's a dent in that part. See where my finger is? Okay, so this is solid, and this is a dent. Okay? On the one used for stitches that go forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards, if you notice, there's a dent both in front of the needle hole, in the front and the back. That is so that your thread doesn't catch right here. So if you're trying to piece for quilting or the things like that, and you're using this foot, your stitch might not be as nice as if you had this foot. Okay, that is holding the fabric down, because what's happening is as your needle comes down through the bottom and goes back up, your fabric can be pulling up a little bit on that needle. It's going to do that. So having this little piece that is not cut out in front really will make a difference on your straight stitch. Now there are specialty feet for straight stitching. Let me get this one. You see here, because this one does not have, let's see if I can turn it back upside down, it works better. You see this little hole? There's only one hole for the needle, and there's a thread path out the back, okay, where this one has a wide stitch for a zigzag. There are also specialty feet. Where did it go? I have one. Okay. This one is specifically designed for piecing, and a lot of, okay, there we go. A lot of the machines, because that are sold to quilters, have a foot like this. It's got a straight stitch path, and this one actually has little marks that are 1/4 of an inch in front, the line, and then 1/4 of an inch back here, plus from the hole to the edge is 1/4 inch. But as long as you have a foot that is designed with this little piece in the front of it, or these have pieces in front that are not giving you that extra path, you'll have a better straight stitch. Okay, so we're talking about straight stitch and zigzag. Okay, even a straightforward zigzag, this one is good. Okay, now some of the new machines have very wide stitches, and therefore their presser feet are wider. Everything's a little different. So you can have them screw on, you can have them click on at the bottom, you can have all of those things make a difference. Okay, so that is our basic sewing foot. Then almost all machines come with this little bar. Okay? And the reason for this little bar is it's a guide if we want to sew 1.5 inches away from the edge of something. And most of the feet have a little spot back there for that to slide into. Okay? Now, I've taken the screw off of this one because it gets in the way sometimes. So there's a screw, and you can see the hole in it. Okay? That is for your guide. It is just a guide so that you can follow a path. Now, sometimes this is nice if you want to sew a hem that's 2 inches deep and you don't have a guide on your machine. A lot of times I put a piece of masking tape down there, or painter's tape, something that won't harm my machine, and then I have that guide. But this little guy will actually run along the edge of your, let's get out some pretend fabric. It will run along the edge of your fabric so that you can measure. Okay? Get that out of there. Now, then one of the next feet that your machine will have is a zipper foot. It's usually very narrow. You see, this one is nice and wide, this one's narrow. And if you notice, the little holes for your needle are on the sides. They're not in the middle, they're on the sides. Okay? The reason for that is when you're sewing a zipper in, you need the presser foot to hold the zipper and the fabric and all that stuff together, but you want the needle on the edge of it so that you can sew close to the edge of the zipper. These come in handy for other things when you're trying to do that real close top stitching, things like that. It has a pretty smooth bottom in the middle, but if you notice the dent, it's for the thread to come out the back. And this one has a little bit of a dent in the front, and that's because a lot of times you need to back stitch too. So that's a zipper foot. Okay. Becky, when she was talking about her sewing machine the other day in her first sewing bee, and I'll put a link down there to that, she has a foot that looks similar to this. And this, technically, this is a darning foot. It's designed for darning fabric, or to create to create a thread path that will go around and around. It's when you're free motioning. See, I have a big one and I have a little one. Okay? Now, a lot of people who don't have a lot of options in feet, like I do, use this foot for free motion machine embroidery. If you can, oops, I'm sorry. Do not do that in front of everything. There we go. Okay. I have this one, and if you can get that one and you want to do free motion embroidery, it is a lot easier to use once you get good at it. This one keeps your thread always around your needle. Sometimes if you're not good with your free motion work, this one can get tangled, but once you learn, it just is easier. You don't have to constantly be threading the thread through this hole, because they function like this. Okay, now, oops, come on, stop. Okay. A free motion foot or a darning foot has a spring. If you notice, it goes like that. Okay? Now sometimes the spring is on the outside of these and sometimes this is clear. It's all about which machine you have, okay? But it's going to have that little thing that bounces up and down. The reason for that is this foot is shorter. Let me see if I can get them laid out together. Okay. Oops. Oh, blast. Okay. If you see, this is about a quarter to an eighth of an inch shorter. It's also really good for free motion quilting because, and you can even get one that's shorter than this if you quilt big, thick battings. The thing of it is that when you push this down onto your fabric, when you lower your presser foot lever, this doesn't pinch your fabric, okay? What happens is that it will bounce up and down on the surface of your fabric because of this pin, like that, bounces like that. So as your needle goes up, this is going to go up a little bit and then come down and go up and come down. It's part of the way that allows you to do free motion. Sorry, it is very confusing to explain that. But that's why this one has a spring. It's to allow you to bounce up and down sort of on your fabric when you're doing free motion, because you don't want it held in place because you can't move it then. Okay, because when you're doing free motion, you're responsible for moving your fabric around. So that is why that one is got a spring and is bouncy. Okay, I'm trying to think which other feet really come with your machines. Oh, I wanted to talk about decorative stitches a minute. And give me 1 second. Here it is. Okay. Now, this presser foot doesn't have anything in front of it. Okay? And I see a lot of people that say, oh, I love that foot because I can see where my needle's at. The problem is if you're using it to straight stitch or just plain old stitch, zigzag, whatever, you do not have the stability of the front piece for your stitches. Okay? And this foot is designed for thicker embroidery stitches. Let me find my 0 foot again. Okay. You see that the thread path, the amount of stitches here. And you see this one. This is for embroidering, doing things like applique, where you have thick, heavy stitches, satin stitches. And the idea behind it is this thread path is going to be filled up with thread. And so you don't have to have as much stability on the sides or the back of your foot because you're going to have a lot of thick thread there. This is a foot that you should use when you are doing thick stitches with heavy thread. I would not use it to stitch every day. Your stitch might make you happy, but it's not the same quality as you would get with a regular foot. Okay. And I do love this one. I use it for machine satin stitch applique all the time. Okay. This is what they call a Teflon foot. If you sew a lot of things like vinyl or plastic or sticky stuff, this really is nice. It's very, very nice for that. I'm trying to see. Oh, another one of the feet that is real common in your boxes, just 1 minute. Okay. Is some kind of buttonhole foot. Okay, now these are all different. Let's get this out of the way. Everybody's buttonhole foot is different. The way you make a buttonhole on your machine is also different. The reason my machine came with 2 is because I have an electronic sensor to make a buttonhole. And once I make the first button hole with this sensor, the machine knows what it did, and it will continue to make the same buttonhole exactly the same size until I turn it off. That's the way it works. The thread path on a buttonhole is usually got, I can't see, I'm trying to look. This one is got a complete empty space back there. This one has 2 grooves in it because your buttonhole usually leaves a groove. It is open in the front because your buttonhole is going to create a thickness and you have to go back over it. And this one is designed for me to make 1 buttonhole at a time. It's manual, okay? It's the way it works. Buttonholes and how they're made on your machine is something that you have to look at your book about because every machine is a little different. Most of the new machines have something that looks like this. I really like using this manual buttonhole when I'm doing crafts and things. It's just easier to put on, it's easier to deal with. I put my little marks in and I do the 4 steps. Actually, my machine has 5 steps. 5 steps to make a buttonhole, and I'm done. And this one, sometimes the buttonhole isn't not long enough. Say I wanted to make a buttonhole that was 4 inches long for some craft project, I would need a manual buttonhole. Okay, let's see what's next. Okay. There is usually a foot in your machine that is called a blind hem foot. It may not have this same big bar in it. This one is a plate. Oh shoot, come on. This is a plate, and you see there's a little fin or piece of metal that goes down through there. That is because the way the blind hem works, it has to leave a little thread loop so that when you flatten your blind hem back out, it functions. It lays flat. It does what it's supposed to do. There's a lot of ways to do a blind hem, and the blind hem feet are very, very different. That's one of the things I can't really tell you what yours looks like. If I could see it, I would know, but come on. Guys, I'm really sorry when that goes out of focus like that, but I don't think I'm going to be able to edit them all out. Now, there's another way to use this little foot, and I have a special foot where the blade, let's turn these over this way, the blade stops at the hole right here instead of going all the way back. And that's, if you put your needle to one side or the other of it, it gives you a perfect edge stitch for top stitching. And if you use your blind hem foot and are careful where you put your needle so that you don't hit that little plate that's in the center, that little fin, it works excellent as an edge stitch foot. And that way you can get yourself a little tiny 1/16 of an inch edge stitch. Really nice to make it work that way. Okay, most machines come with a little foot that looks like this. It's got a little pin in it because most machines have what they call an overlock stitch anymore, or it's to finish the edges. It's for people who have a sewing machine. They want to finish the edge of something ravelly, but they do not have a serger. And there's different kinds of stitches that you can use. But what this little pin does is, as you run this along the very edge, that pin is on the edge of your fabric. As it stitches into the fabric and off the edge of the fabric, into the fabric, off the edge, it doesn't pinch up the edge of your fabric. That pin holds your thread out, oh shoot, so that it gives you a nice clean edge on your fabric. I'm trying to think of what else might be real common in your boxes. Oh, another thing is that I have an extra bobbin case. Mine, Bernina happens to make them with a different color on this little pin. And you know, in my first video, I told you never ever touch this screw down here. This bobbin case, or having an extra bobbin case, means that you can adjust the tension for putting things like heavy pearl cotton and things like that in your machine. Machines can do that. So that's one of the reasons why I still like this kind of bobbin case. Okay. This is a gathering foot. Now, there are also things called rufflers. They're big attachments. Becky had out her walking foot, and I have one of those too. Some machines actually have a walking foot built into them, especially the Pfaffs have that. This is one I use a lot. I sew buttons on with it. It has a little pin in the middle. It looks kind of like a freehand foot, but it is stabilized. It does not have the bounce. The thing about this one is that pin that's in the middle can be raised or lowered. If you have a heavy coat, you need more thread on your bobbin. So I sew, or not on your bobbin, on your button. So I have always sewn buttons on with this foot and a special stitch that locks them in. Okay, I showed you a rolled hem foot. Oh, this is a piping foot. It's designed for heavy piping. And a lot of these feet are not common with most machines, and some of them you won't be able to get on different machines. The Bernina, one of the things about it is that they have designed all these feet so that you kind of have the ability to do things a big industrial machine will do. This one's a roller foot. Again, it's designed for things that stick or want to do things weird. I talked about using a twin needle to stitch on things. There's also little cording feet that if you're using a twin needle, sometimes it's fun to sew over a cord. So guys, I could go on all day with this because there are so many feet and so many things, but I think I have shown you the basics. And this video is getting kind of long. There's feet on industrial machines that are different than the things that we have. There's all sorts of things that you can do with your Presserfeet. Let's put something fun back in here. We don't want the video to have no fun looking pictures. Anyways, my battery's about to die and my video's about to have to be ended, and I apologize for all of the fuzzy things that come and go, and I hope I have given you some information about your different Presserfeet that you will enjoy or use, and take a look at what's in your box. Like I said, it is not about it's not about how you attach it. It's about what this little bottom piece looks like, just this little piece that's down here, because in that instance they all have similar characteristics. So now we want to talk about creativity, so that before we end this video, today's quote about creativity is, "I believe there are two ways of writing novels. One is making a sort of musical comedy without music and ignoring real life altogether. The other is going deep down into life and caring a damn." Excuse my, I didn't read that ahead of time. That is from P.J. Wodehouse. So let's read that again. "I believe there are two ways of writing novels. One is making a sort of musical comedy without music and ignoring real life altogether. The other is going deep down into life and not caring." I'm not sure I like that particular one, but I hope you all have found this useful, and I hope you will enjoy your afternoon. Have fun, create something fun. Have a great day.